Hey everyone, it's Dawn and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a collaboration video with my beautiful bestie here on YouTube, Jdee. I love Jdee. I think you all know that by now. She and I talk to each other just about every single day, and we have so much in common outside of YouTube. We like the same kinds of movies and books, and we just find ourselves chatting about so many things that often we're not talking about YouTube at all. We're just talking about our lives and families and things like that. She and I both really love to watch movies, and we talk about that a lot too, and we give each other suggestions of things to watch, and we have similar taste. So since we're all sheltering at home, we thought that it might be a good idea to do a collaboration and share our favorite movie choices and a few books with you, because you're sheltering at home too, and you're probably watching a lot more TV than you typically do. I know I am for sure. And I also love movies. I love them. I grew up watching a lot of movies. I remember the first, like before cable even existed, my parents had something called On TV, and then Cablevision finally came to the Chicagoland area, and I just could not get enough of it. And I've always loved watching movies. I think I'm just a very visual person, and even when a lot of people say, oh, the books are so much better than the movies. And a lot of times they really are, but sometimes I really enjoy just seeing the movie too, because I like that visual aspect of it. So anyways, I'm going to be sharing my favorites with you, and I'm not going to go back to the classics from like the 50s and 60s and all those great movies, because if I did, this video would be very, very long, and I feel like that could be a separate video. I'm going to stick with, like, I think the oldest movie I have on my list is 1981. So I'm just going to stick from like 81 up until now, my favorites that come to mind. And the way I chose them is movies that I want to watch again and again, and they stuck with me. Like, I think about them and I talk about them with other people a lot. So I'm just going to jump right in and get started. So my very favorite comedy that came to mind right off the bat, I didn't even think too hard about this one because, you know, I don't want to confuse myself, but I wrote down The Devil Wears Prada, and I think that one is definitely worth watching. It's about the New York fashion industry, and Meryl Streep is the star. It has Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, and Emily Blunt. So it's got a beautiful female cast, and Meryl Streep is an editor for a magazine, and she is at the top of her game, and she is tough, and she's been around the block, and she doesn't take any crap from anyone. And I love that about her, but she's also very hard too, and doesn't show a lot of grace and mercy to others, but it's funny. And then Anne Hathaway is like her intern who's kind of working as a receptionist, and she just wants to please this woman, but women like that, that's like a huge mistake. You can't ever please them. And then you've got Emily Blunt, who has like a desk across from Anne Hathaway, and just the bantering between the two just makes me laugh so hard. I just love the dynamic of all the women, and I think that movie is enjoyable. So go ahead and check it out. The next one on the list is romance, and this one was easy for me. It's Dan in Real Life, and it has Steve Carell in it, and he plays a widowed father of 3 girls, and 2 of them are teenagers, and so that adds a whole element of humor in itself, because I am the mother of, I still have 1 teenage girl. My oldest daughter is 22. So, but all my kids are teenagers. My other 3 are teenagers. So I can just laugh my head off at that movie. And they all head to Rhode Island to stay in their family's cabin for a family reunion. And on the way there, widowed Dan, he drops off the daughters and he goes to a bookshop to get some alone time. And he ends up meeting a woman. And for the very first time, he feels a connection with someone since his wife died, and it just is so silly and funny and sweet and romantic, and I love everything about that movie. So that's all I'll tell you, because I don't want to give anything away. So Dan in Real Life. Okay, then my favorite thriller is, I was thinking of current thrillers, and I have 2. One is a little bit older, I think from the 80s or early 90s, and it's Cape Fear, and it has Robert De Niro in it, and it also has Jessica, what is her name? She's beautiful. Jessica Lange. And it has someone else and I can't think of his name, but I know his face. Anyways, Cape Fear. It's a remake of the 1950s Cape Fear, which is also excellent. But the husband in this movie is a lawyer, and he's a prosecutor, and he prosecutes someone for a crime, and this person has been in prison and builds up hatred for him, and he does get released, and that's all I'll tell you, and the rest of it will just have you on the edge of your seat. It's a movie that, even though I know how it ends, I never shut it off when it comes on TV. It just enthralls me. So Cape Fear. And then I have another one, Gone Girl. And this one is about a man whose wife goes missing, and it gets a lot of media scrutiny. It reminds me a lot of the Scott Peterson and Lacey Peterson debacle that happened in the early 2000s. And this man becomes the prime suspect, but he might not be guilty. So it is a really good movie. It makes me think a lot about what kind of psychological problems certain characters in the movie have. And it is a little bit, there's some parts of it that are a little bit hard to watch. And so I just kind of do this, you know, when I'm watching that part. But other than that, it's a really good thriller, Gone Girl. So Cape Fear and Gone Girl. All right, now dramas are my favorite types of movies. I love documentaries and I love dramas. And so I have a lot of dramas. And I'm just gonna go ahead and list them off. One is The Pianist, and it has to do with World War II and the Germans invading Poland. And it's a little bit long, but it's so worth the watch. And it, parts of it are hard to watch because they are historically accurate. So if you haven't seen The Pianist, it's definitely a must-see. Then Shawshank Redemption, which I think is on everybody's list. And this one is a man who goes to prison. He's innocent. He truly is innocent, and how he makes his way there. And I'm not going to tell anything more about that one, but it's definitely a must-see. And then the movie Doubt, and that one has Amy Adams, and I can't think of the name of the actor who plays, she plays a nun, and then there's a priest, and the priest is suspected of inappropriate behavior with altar boys, and it is a mystery, and it's a thriller, and it's a drama, and it's very, very well done. And there's a lot of little life lessons in there that are important to tuck away too. So I would definitely recommend Doubt. Okay, now we're gonna go on to spooky. Jdee and I both agreed that we don't like horror films. I don't like thrasher films or slasher films. I don't like gratuitous violence and gore. But I do like spooky movies. So I have a couple here. One is The Haunting of Hill House, and that's recent. That was on Netflix, and I watched it, maybe not this Halloween, but the one before, and I really enjoyed it. It was a series, and I thought that was really good. But my all-time favorite spooky movie is Ghost Story, and it's from 1981, and this is about two generations of men, older men and their sons, and they're all being haunted by a spectral woman, and they don't know why, especially the second generation of men. So one of the sons comes back to his hometown to unravel the mystery of this woman, and it's really creepy, really spooky, and really scary. But it's not gory. It's just a very, it's a story. Ghost Story. So yeah, definitely check that one out. And there was one other movie that at first I thought it was really boring, but then it had a twist at the end that made me really like the movie, and it's called The Others. And it has Nicole Kidman in it. And it made me think about hauntings in a whole different way. That's all I'll say about that one. Okay, so that's my spooky category. Now, mystery. And this one was hard for me, but I did come up with a few. I put Doubt again in that one because that's also a mystery. It's like a drama and a mystery. So that one's in here twice. Presumed Innocent. It has Harrison Ford and Greta Scacchi, I think is how you pronounce her name. And this is back from, I think, the early 90s. And he's an attorney and he's married and he has an affair with a woman he works with, and she turns up dead and he becomes a suspect. And that's what the whole story revolves around. But I thought it was really, really well done and very good. And then the other one I have is Mystic River, and that was directed by Clint Eastwood, and I like all Clint Eastwood movies for the most part. So if you like Clint Eastwood movies, you might really like this one. It's a little bit hard to watch. It's about a man whose daughter goes missing, and then he remembers something that happened in his childhood. And so yeah, that one is definitely a little bit hard to watch too. I did have another movie that watch with caution, but it's a favorite movie of mine, but it is disturbing, and it's Dead Man Walking, and it has Sean Penn and Susan Sarandon in it. Susan Sarandon plays a nun who is trying to witness to a man who's on death row, and but before he can accept Christ or receive forgiveness for what he's done, he needs to come to terms with what he's done. And so it's a really interesting movie, but again, it's a little bit graphic, and part of it is hard to watch. So those are all my movies that I would recommend, and I hope you like some of these if you watch them. Start with Dan in Real Life. It's so cute and funny. I would start there. So anyway, then we were going to recommend a few books, and I didn't think about this in advance. So I'm going to just recommend a few books that I really, really have enjoyed. One is The Red Tent, and it tells a Bible story, but it's not like a biblical book. It's a novel, and it's called The Red Tent, and it's about what happened with women back in biblical times when they were menstruating. They would have to go to the red tent and sit on hay for the whole time, because back then a woman who was menstruating was considered unclean. So they would stay in there the whole time, and they would have conversations. And so it's told from that perspective, but also then a biblical story comes to life as a few women talk about it in this red tent. So that's a book that really stuck with me. Another one is Memoir of a Geisha, and that one I read so many years ago, but my daughter was in Costa Rica last year and she needed books sent to her, and so I sent her that book and she loved it. So I know it's still relevant and still a good book. It used to be on the Oprah books, you know, the book club that Oprah would recommend, and it's a male author, and it's told from the perspective of a geisha, and you feel like you can completely understand their world when you're reading this book. So yeah, it's definitely a book that will take you away to someplace different, and you'll learn a little bit about a culture. So that one was really, really good. So there was Red Tent, Memoir of a Geisha, and let me think. A book that sticks with me that I read in the past couple of years that we also read in our book club, and I thought it was really good, was Defending Jacob. And it's a book about a family, and the husband in the book is an attorney, and his son gets himself into some trouble, and he needs to be defended. And the book makes you think about things like, what would you do if this were your family, if the child in this book were your child, and did they handle it the right way, and what would you have done? And so it makes you think about a lot of things like that. So that's another book I would really recommend. And oh, and one last thing is the book Little Fires Everywhere. I read that last year in my book club, and I really enjoyed the book, and now it's on Hulu, the series, and it's really good too. And so if you have Hulu, I actually get it, and I get it for like just a little while till I watch what I want to watch, and then I'll cancel it because I don't always watch Hulu. And you do get a free trial period in there too. So that's a good way to test out Hulu and maybe watch something that you've been wanting to watch. But Little Fires Everywhere is on Hulu, and the book is also excellent. And I really like the Hulu series. It has Reese Witherspoon in it, and she's like the mom in the book. And you know what, she's carrying Dooney and Burke purses, and they're kind of shedding some light back onto Dooney and Burke, which I think is great, because I think that they are stellar handbags and they don't get enough love. So just a throw in a little handbag love. But anyway, so those are my choices. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you love. Is there a book I should read that I might not have mentioned? Is there a movie that's your absolute favorite that you think I should watch? Leave me a comment and let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to head on over to Jdee and watch her portion of this collaboration. And if you've come here from Jdee, thank you for coming over. I hope that you'll hit the subscribe button and stick around. I hope you all have a very blessed and beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.